Hello, check. 1, 2, 2, 2.
Blessed are you, O Lord our God, eternity's holy King. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, whose word brings on the evening. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. By wisdom, O Lord, heaven's gates open up. With understanding you order the seasons, creating day and night, turning darkness into light, arranging the stars to your pleasing. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, oh, blessed be the King, to the Holy One we sing. Lord of hosts is your name. Oh, ever-living God, rule over us, now and forever the same. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, eternity's holy King. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, whose word brings on the evening.
Check. Pretty good?
Tell me something, girl. Are you happy in this modern world? Or do you need more? Is there something else you're searching for? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for a change, and in the bad times I feel myself.
Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for a change, feel myself. I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface where they can't hurt us. Far from the shallow now. In the shallow, in the shallow, in the shallow, far from the shallow now. I'm over deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface where they can't hurt us. Far from the shallow now. In the shallow, in the shallow, in the shallow, far from the shallow now. I'm going under, and this time I feel there's no one to save me. It's all or nothing, really got a way of driving me crazy. I need somebody to heal, somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold. It's easy to say.
So check 1 2 1 2.
I guess I can't.
Hello, check 1 2. Hello. You.
Another day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved. I'm going
Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Hello. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2.
Just to know how it feels. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you helped me escape. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved. And I tend to close my eyes when it hurts. Sometimes I fall into your arms. I'll be safe in the sound till I come back around. For now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved, but now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved. I let my guard down, then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved.
But you'll never be alone. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. Not trying to be in there, not trying to be cool, just trying to be in this. Tell me, are you too? Can you feel where the wind is? Can you
Sure.
feel it through all
Yeah.
of the windows inside this
Yeah.
room?
check 1 2. Hello, check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Hello, check 1 2 1 2.
Let's make love tonight. But you'll never be alone. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. Baby, I'm right here. I'll hold you when things go wrong. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn.
Check
I'll be with
1
you from
2.
dusk till dawn.
Check 1 2 1 2. Audio 1 2. Check audio 1 2 1 2.
I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. Baby, I'm right here. Jacket, so do yours. We would roll down the rapids to find a wave that fits. Can you feel where the wind is? Can you feel it through all of the windows inside this room? 'Cause I wanna touch you, baby, and I wanna feel you too, and I wanna see the sunrise and your sins, just me and you. Light it
Check, check,
up on the
check,
run.
check, check.
Let's make love tonight.
Check,
You'll
check,
never be
check,
alone.
check,
I'll
check,
be
check,
with you
check,
from dusk till dawn.
check,
I'll be
check,
with you
check.
from dusk till dawn. Baby, I'm right here. I'll hold you when things go wrong. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. Baby, I'm right here. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. Baby, I'm right here. Could give love to your body, so only you that can stop it.
Check
Gonna
1
give love to your
2.
body.
Check, check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Hello. Yes, 1 2 2 2. Check 1 2. Hello. Right. Check 1 2 1 2. Right. Check 1 2 1 2.
With you from dusk till dawn. Baby, I'm right here. I'll be with you from dusk till dawn. Baby, I'm right here.
There goes my heart beating, 'cause you are the reason I'm losing my sleep. Please come back now. There goes my mind racing, and you are the reason that I'm still breathing. I'm hopeless now. I climb every mountain and swim every ocean just to be with you and fix what I've broken. Oh, 'cause I need you to see that you are the reason. There goes my hand shaking, and you are the reason. My heart keeps bleeding. I need you now. If I could turn back the clock, I'd make sure the light defeated the dark. I'd spend every hour of every day keeping you safe. I'd climb
2. Hello. 1, 2. Hello. Check, check. Ready, 1, 2. Right.
And fix what I've broken. Oh, 'cause I need you to see that you are the reason. I don't wanna fight no more. I don't wanna hide no more. I don't wanna cry no more. Come back, I need you the reason. Come a little closer, just a little closer. Come a little closer, I need you to hold me tonight. I climb every mountain and swim every ocean just to be with you and fix what I've broken. 'Cause I need you to see that you are the reason.
We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. Oh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do.
We don't laugh anymore. What was all of it for? We don't talk anymore like we used to do.
I just heard you found the one you've been looking for. I wish I would have known that wasn't me. 'Cause even after all this time, I still wonder why I can't move on just the way you did so easily. Don't wanna know what kind of dress you're wearing tonight. If he's holding on to you so tight, the way I did before. I overdosed, should've known your love was a game. Now I can't get you out of my brain. Oh, it's such a shame
That we don't talk anymore.
we don't talk anymore.
We don't talk anymore like we used to do.
We don't laugh anymore.
What was all of it for?
Oh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do.
I just hope you're lying next to somebody knows to love you like me. Must be a good reason that you're gone. Every now and then I think you might want me to come show up at your door. I'm just too afraid that I'll be wrong. Don't wanna know if you're looking into her eyes, if she's holding on to you so tight, the way I did before. I overdosed, should've known your love was a game. I can't get you out of my brain. Oh, it's such a shame that we don't talk anymore.
We don't talk anymore.
We don't talk anymore like we used to do.
We don't laugh anymore.
What was all of it for?
Oh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do.
Maybe we're perfect strangers. Maybe it's not forever. Maybe we'll let them change us. Maybe we'll stay together. Maybe we'll walk away. Maybe we'll realize we're only human. Maybe we don't need no reason why.
Why?
We don't talk anymore.
We don't talk anymore.
We don't talk anymore. No, no, no.
Need a boy who can cuddle with me all night. Keep me warm, love me long, be my sunlight. Tell me lies, we can argue, we can fight. Yeah, we before, but we'll do it tonight. An afro black boy with the gold teeth, dark skin looking at me like you know me. Wonder if he got the G or the B. Let me find out and see. He coming over to me, yeah. These days I'm way too lonely. I'm missing out, I know. These days I'm way too alone, and I'm known for giving all away. But I want someone to love me, and I need someone who needs me. Cause it don't feel right when it's late at night and it's just me and my dreams. Someone to love, yeah, that's what I fucking want. It's harder to find in these times, but I got nothing but love on my mind. I need a baby with love on my prime. Need an adversary to mark down to marry. Like, tell me that's life when I'm stressing at night. Be like, you'll be okay and everything is alright. Let me in that thing, cause I'm not wanting anything but you loving your body and a little bit of your brain. These days I'm way too lonely. I'm missing out, I know. These days I'm way too alone, and I'm known for giving love away. But I want someone to love me, and I need someone who needs me. Cause it don't feel right when it's late at night and it's just me and my dreams. Someone to love, that's what I fucking want. Someone who loves me, and I need someone who needs me. Because it don't feel right when it's late at night and it's just me and my dreams. And I want someone to love, that's what I fucking want. I took an arrow to the heart. I never kissed a mouth that tastes like yours. Strawberries and something more. Oh yeah, I want it all. Lipstick on my guitar. Fill up the engine, we can drive real far. Go dancing underneath the stars. Oh yeah, I want it all. You got me feeling like I wanna be that guy. I wanna kiss your eyes. I wanna drink that smile. I wanna feel like my soul's on fire. I wanna stay up all day and all night. Yeah, you got me singing like, oh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. So when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back. And we'll say, oh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. So when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back into the car. On the backseat in the moonlit dark. Wrap me up between your legs and arms. Oh, I can't get enough. You know you could tear me apart. Put me back together and take my heart. I never thought that I could love this hard. Oh, I can't get enough. You got me feeling like I wanna be that guy. I wanna kiss your eyes. I wanna drink that smile. I wanna feel like my soul's on fire. I wanna stay up all day and all night. Yeah, you got me singing like, oh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. So when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back. And we'll say, oh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close stop. You know you make me shiver. Baby, you burn so hot. You make me shiver with the fire. You got this thing started, I don't want it to stop. You know you make me shiver. Yeah, you got me singing like, ooh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back. And we'll say, oh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back, yeah. She's okay, and I'm alright. And she's awake, I'm up all night. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. I see her face, and in my mind I seize the day whenever she's nearby. It's like nothing really matters. No, nothing really matters. She completes me, it's how she reads me, right or wrong. It's so clear she's all that I need, all I need, yeah. I know what it feels like, I know what it feels like. Swimming through the stars when I see her. I don't need air 'cause I breathe her. I know what it feels like, I know what it feels like, yeah. I breathe her, breathe her. Every time I see her, every time I see her, oh. When I'm lost, I need a sign. She leads the way, and I'll be fine. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. She completes me, it's how she reads me, right or wrong. It's so clear she's all that I need, all I need, yeah. I know what it feels like, I know what it feels like. Swimming through the stars when I see her. I don't need air 'cause I breathe her. I know what it feels like, I know what it feels like, yeah. I breathe her, breathe her. Every time I see her, every time I see her, oh. Every time I see her, oh. Every time I see her, oh. She's okay, and I'm alright. And she's awake, I'm up all night. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. Anywhere you are, I am near. Anywhere you go, I'll be there. Anytime you whisper my name, you'll see how every single promise I'll keep. 'Cause what kind of guy would I be if I was to leave when you need me most? What are words if you really don't mean them when say them. And what are words if they're only for good times? Damn, that's all. When it's a lie, yeah, you say them out loud. Those words, they never go away. They live on, even when we're gone. And I know an angel was sent just for me, and I know I'm meant to be where I am, and I'm gonna be standing right beside her tonight, and I'm gonna be by your side. I would never leave when she needs me most. What are words if you really don't mean them when you say them? What are words if they're only for good times? Then they're done. When it's a lie, yeah, you say them out loud. Those words, they never go away. They live on, even when we're gone. Anywhere you are, I am near. Anywhere you go, I'll be there. And I'm gonna be here forevermore. Every single promise I'll keep. 'Cause what kind of guy would I be if I was to leave when you need me most? I'm forever keeping my angel close.
Picture perfect memories scattered all around the floor. Reaching for the phone 'cause I can't fight it anymore. And I wonder if I ever cross your mind. For me it happens all the time. It's a quarter after one. I'm all alone and I need you now. Said I wouldn't call, lost all control and I need you now. And I don't know how I can do without. I just need you now.
Another shot of whiskey, can't stop looking at the door. Wishing you come sweeping in the way you did before.
And I wonder if I ever cross your mind.
For me it happens all the time.
It's a quarter after one. I'm a little drunk and I need you now. Said I would sad eyes. Don't be discouraged, though I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside you makes you feel so small. But I see a true color.
Katika giza la usiku, tuzuri tutangaza kwa mwanga wa nyota, matumaini yatangaza. Katika upepo wa mabadiliko tunapiga hatua, nia yetu ni dhahabu, hatukubali kushindwa. Tumaini letu linang'aa kama jua la asubuhi, hatuwezi kurudi nyuma, twajua kuna mwangaza. Katika kila changamoto tutapata nguvu, kwa pamoja tutainuka.
morning. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for sparing your precious time to be with us this morning as we take on the 7th edition of the Kampala Geopolitics Conference. And I want to say a special thank you as a jurisdiction, but cutting through the different borders. We will be taking this off in less than a minute. We'll be starting off a conversation, kindly introducing a few house rules. Kindly make sure your phone is in silent or it is in vibrate mode, so we do not get to antagonize any kind of conversations and discussions that will be going on. I will also request that we will minimize our movements because there is going to be recording that will be taking place. And if you have to, please use the 2 hallways on the both sides of the hall. And if you do have a chair that is right in front of you or a seat that is empty and it is not particularly reserved, I will request that you draw closer to it. Otherwise, in just a minute, we should be kicking off our conversation because we want to maximize all the time and utilize it as much as possible. So in just a minute, I will be having my technical team prepare and we will start this off. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for coming through for the 7th edition of the Kampala Geopolitics Conference as we take on quite some interesting conversations. We have 6 power-packed panels that will be taking on several discussions across the 2 days. That will be today and tomorrow. Very distinguished panelists who will be taking on these conversations. Of course, our panel 1 will include conversations about armed conflicts. And we're not just talking about the conflict, we're actually looking out for the solution. And that's peace building will be a cornerstone of the conversation, because while we talk about armed conflict, we will be talking about issues of refugees, because as many people continue to flee for their life, for their safety, the aspect of refugees comes through. And we well know that since the advent of COVID-19, management of the refugees as well in terms of facilitation has become a little bit hard, because everyone is hard pressed left, right and center. But in our second one, we'll be talking about balancing global climate commitments with Africa's development needs. Very true that even with the latest National Population and Housing Census report, it was reported that out of 10, more than 8 of the respondents did actually mention and acknowledge the change in weather patterns, and that also affected how much productivity in terms of food there could be. And that even led to reports of up to 6 out of every 10 people either being moderately or severely food insecure. And you know, without food, it is worse than anything else. It's the first form of insecurity. On our third panel, we'll be talking about what lies ahead for Sudan amidst a myriad of failed interventions. We know the kind of unrest that has taken on in Sudan, so that will be a very key conversation for us to take. Before we talk about jihadism, global networks, as well as the African state, we're looking at cases of Somalia, Nigeria, and Mali as well. That will be a very interesting panel for us to look at. And as Uganda prepares for the very first oil drop in 2025, as we have been prepared after the final investment decision was declared and signed up, and a lot of foreign direct investment that is coming through. Our 5th panel's conversations will focus around the oil's impact on Uganda's future. A blessing or a curse? Have we taken some lessons from the other oil-producing countries, or time will be able to tell? That is what the conversation will rotate. And finally, our 6th panel will be talking about navigating Africa's evolving economic partnerships with the emerging and traditional powers coming through. So it's going to be action-packed for the 2 days that we'll be taking on. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to kick off day 1, and I will request that we all stand up and take on just 2 anthems, the shortest versions that we can be able to. And they always say that if you really want to say a prayer without having to say it verbatim, just sing the Uganda national anthem. So I think let's hand over this day unto the hands of God. I do request you in all your distinguished capacities to please stand up for the anthems. And our technical department will take it up from there.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu, jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. We build for the future. and mighty, the gates beside thee. Great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great and mighty, the gates beside thee. From east and west, from north and south, all voices singing, arise, Makerere. Rise up and rise, higher and high. All voices singing, arise, Makerere. Makerere, Makerere. We build for the future, the great Makerere. Great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great and mighty, the gates beside thee. Great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great and mighty, the gates beside thee.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you may get seated. I do totally promise that by tomorrow we will have the French anthem available. We didn't want to have a diplomatic problem this early morning. But also, Professor Barnabas, I think this should be one of the course units. The first thing we learn when we come to Makerere will be the anthem. I tried to look at the lip sync of some of the students, and if it was a failure, it would be a flat one, especially with the lyrics of the Makerere University anthem. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming through, and I want us to kick off this conversation. What better place would we be at than the great Makerere University, a place that has groomed many leaders, but a place that has also been a cornerstone for grooming debaters, and this is the reason why we have such kind of debates coming through. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, the great Makerere University, which is more than a century old now. Let's give him a round of applause.
Your Excellency Cyril Maman, the Deputy Ambassador of France in Uganda, Your Excellency Niels Wolmer, Director Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, Regional Program Security Dialogue for East Africa, Your Excellency Eric Touze, Director Alliance Française de Kampala, all our other guests from the embassy and from Konrad Adenauer, my colleagues in management, members of council, members of staff, our students, the media, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. 7 years ago, Her Excellency Rival, who was the ambassador of France then, came to my office and suggested that we begin a series of conferences as a replica of conferences that were taking place in Nice in France. And we decided that we shall call that the Geopolitics of Kampala. It has now become Kampala Geopolitics. And the geopolitics of Kampala, or Kampala geopolitics, has transformed tremendously. It has become more complex now and discussing complex issues. It has become a big learning event. Actually, Her Excellency Rival went on to become a candidate for the presidency in France, and I sent her a message and said, you see what quality Makerere can bring out. She was now becoming president if she had won. But this has become very much part of Makerere. Every year we look forward to the Kampala Geopolitics. This morning I was listening to a clip that was sent on one of the groups I am on WhatsApp, and it was a young African entrepreneur, innovator, and he was saying he was attending a conference somewhere in Europe, and he's from Kenya, and he was saying, you know, we are transforming very fast in Africa. We are going, in a very short time, we are going to have half the working population in the world, and we will no longer be coming to your shows on boats or in boats, but you'll be inviting us because you'll need to work with us. And I thought that was quite strong. And so some of the things that preoccupy us at Makerere University is looking for solutions that will address Africa's demographic revolution. We have to think, how shall we feed this population? How shall we ensure that this population has gainful employment? Because if we don't have that, then we have to be prepared for very unstable countries. And of course, issues of disease, governance, and so on. So this Kampala Geopolitics should address issues like that and those of national interest and global interest. And so I was happy when the students themselves started what we call the guild dialogues. And the young people are supposed to be fighting corruption to have a discussion. And I listened attentively and understood that, yes, our young people know what their country should look like. So we are living now in a world where nobody should any longer take Africa for granted, because changes are taking place. The demographic revolution alone is something that should concern everybody. But how will this transform Africa as part of the global community, when we are seeing a lot of changes taking place? Unprecedented wars, which we were not expecting in Europe. The problems in Gaza, when all of us in the world just look on as we see a whole community being decimated. And we are not saying anything. Or we are saying but doing nothing. The war in Sudan. The wars in Ukraine and Gaza have made the war in Sudan look like it is not there. But there is probably much more suffering in Sudan than in the other two war zones, because universities have been changed into barracks. There is no learning in Sudan. So these are issues that I believe should concern us, and I'm happy to note that on the program, we are going to be addressing some of these issues. I would like to thank our partners who have been partnering with us all these years to organize these conferences. I want to thank particularly Conrad Adenwa for their very generous donations whenever we are organizing these conferences. I want to thank the panelists who have agreed to come and partner with us and share their experiences and lead the debates, and to thank you, the students, for showing such great interest, because this is about your future. You are going to lead Africa. You are going to lead the world. You should know where the world and Africa are going. I do hope that we are going to have very interesting discussions, and I wish you, all of you, a good conference. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll request for another bigger round of applause for our first speaker and our host. And I totally agree with you, Professor, that Africa can no longer be put on the side. The conversations regarding a continent as big as Africa cannot be put on the side. And especially that you did mention the demographic revolution or shift that is coming through. I was trying to check out the median age of Africans, and it's 19.2. Sorry for those who are UB40. They told us everyone who is 40 and above now is categorized as band UB40, right? Even in Uganda, being above 30 means that you're slowly but surely aging, because our population, more than 80% of our population is under the age of 30. That is a resource. But at the end of the day as well, if not utilized, it can become a risk for many countries. And that is why, very true, African conversations have to be at the forefront. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now also get to hear from His Excellency Xavier Stika, and being represented by Mr. Nish Obrecht. I know I have failed probably at the pronunciation, but you can give me a pass, who is the first Chancellor and also Deputy Head of Mission, the French Embassy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give her some energy as she comes to speak to us. 7 years running, and the French Embassy still believes that these conversations are very prudent to hold.
Dear Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, dear Director of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation Regional Program on Security Dialogue, Mr. Niels Wormer, dear Director of the Alliance Française, Mr. Eric Touzé, dear panelists, dear journalists, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It is a great honor and a real pleasure to participate today in the launch of the 7th edition of the Kampala Geopolitics Conference, the annual flagship event in Makerere University, the Uganda's Temple of Knowledge. First of all, allow me to thank the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, for hosting once again this important event in this very prestigious venue. It's a real pleasure to gather here together every year. I also would like to thank the long-term partners of the Embassy of France, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, Makerere University, and Alliance Française of Kampala, to contributing to the success of this event, which aims to foster free debate on issues affecting and shaping the African geopolitical dynamics. So it is with a great honor that today I convey to you the Ambassador Sticker's grateful words. For the 6 past years, the partners have been providing this interactive platform for dialogue and free exchange on contemporary, regional, and international debates. Inspired by the Nantes Geopolitics Conference, a city in France, a concept created by IRIS in France. IRIS is a French think tank. The Kampala Geopolitics Conference was launched in 2018 with the objective of putting the spotlight on international debates on the African stage. This year again, I'm very glad to see that the Kampala Geopolitics Conference continues to bring together researchers, representatives of civil society, international organizations and governments, artists, and entrepreneurs. Beyond illustrating the great collaboration and continuous jointed work between the partners, the success of the Kampala Geopolitics Conference is also an example of the appetite of young Ugandans for debates, dialogue, and exchange of ideas on topical, if not burning, issues. As you know, France's diplomacy promotes debates and knowledge sharing in order to explore new ways of thinking about international relations and our relation to the world. Today, the Embassy of France in Uganda is proud to promote these values of open-mindedness, tolerance, and dialogue hand in hand with our Ugandan partners. I would like to highlight 2 issues that will be discussed during the conference. Allow me to briefly say a word about them. Today, the first panel will explore the interactions between war crimes, gender-based violence, and justice. During armed conflicts, sexual violences are used as a weapon and are an integral part of conflict strategy. This panel is a platform to discuss access to justice, the role of the International Criminal Court, and tools for mitigating gender-based violence in future armed conflicts, which are values at the core of the French diplomacy. Another panel will discuss the topic of the impact of the future oil revenue on Uganda's economy, society, and geopolitics. This future revenue raises the hopes of many as regards the public policies like health, education, access to energy and infrastructure that they could finance. The panel will look at the challenges, conditions, and safeguards that will allow a transparent and efficient management. The success of the previous editions are, without any doubt, due to the quality of debates, the precious insights from the panelists, and the increasing number of participants is a good indicator. Not to mention my favorite part, which is the lively and bold questions from the students. Finally, I want to take the opportunity to formally thank you, all of you, for your diverse contributions to this conference. Kampala Geopolitics Conference 7th edition, here we go. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Shanice. And as we draw in closer to the conversations on the panel, I know every speaker is pointing to the conversations that we will be having, and we can't wait. But pretty soon we'll be starting off and kicking off those conversations. But these clearly, out of the last speaker's remarks, speaks to the fact that there's been quality of debate and the fact that these are very important conversations and debates to have over and over again. It's one thing to have a debate over and over again, and it's another thing to be able to find the best solutions out of those conversations. And like I say today, we're not only going to be, at least for the Christians, we're not reading from the book of Lamentations, but our discussions will be focusing us to the book of Acts. And ladies and gentlemen, now allow me to invite the director, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung's regional program on security dialogue for East Africa, that is Nils Wormer. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes to address us.
Dear First Counselor of the Embassy of France in Uganda, Janice Obrecht, dear Vice Chancellor Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, dear Alliance Française representative Mr. Eric Touzé, distinguished panelists and participants, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to the 7th edition of the Kampala Geopolitics Conference. We at Konrad Adenauer Foundation are very pleased to once again co-host this prestigious conference alongside the French Embassy in Uganda, Makerere University, and the Alliance Française. I myself have the distinct privilege of co-hosting this conference, meanwhile for the third time. Konrad Adenauer Stiftung has been involved in this undertaking as one of the main organizers from the very beginning in 2018. The Regional Program Security Dialogue for East Africa that has been established here in Kampala as the second program of Adenauer Foundation in town has now been involved in the conference for the third year. After the first 4 editions were supported by our Uganda country office, let me on this occasion also welcome my fellow colleague, the director of the Uganda country office, Anna Reisman, and the members of her team. Ladies and gentlemen, about a year ago at the 6th edition of this conference, we extensively discussed scenarios for Somalia and the region after ATMIS, the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, which is to be turned into another mission. For this discussion, we as CAS invited Djiboutian Lieutenant General Osman Nurzubahle, the former commander of AMISOM to Somalia, the mission that preceded ATMIS. From Somalia, we had the security expert and regional analyst Samira Guide here in Kampala, Selam Tades Demis, a research officer at the Institute for Security Studies, came from Addis Ababa, and from Uganda, the spokesperson of the UPDF, Brigadier General Felix Kulaije, was involved. We also debated on the role of East Africa as part of the Indo-Pacific theater last year. From Uganda, we had senior fellow Ahmed Haji at the Africa Institute for Strategy and Policy as an expert on the panel. From Hargeisa, we brought Mohamed Abdullahi Douale, a senior government official. Furthermore, Abdullahi Hamoud Mohamed, the executive director of our partner organization in Mogadishu, came to Kampala, and the director of the Diplomatic Institute of the Djiboutian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mohamed Abdul Qadir Musa, addressed the audience here in this very place. Both our panels were moderated by colleagues from Germany. That the ongoing major war in Europe affects the African continent was already discussed in 2022 and 2023. What was still a possibility at last year's conference became a certainty a short time later, namely that another major war broke out, this time in the Middle East. And this too has affected the African continent, at least economically and diplomatically. But unfortunately, very unfortunately, conflicts also take place in our nearer neighborhood. After having had the devastating civil war in Ethiopia from 2020 to 2022, which we addressed in numerous of our activities, another armed conflict in the Eastern African region broke out in Sudan in April 2023. This war, meanwhile, also lasts for 1.5 years, and there is no end in sight. What seemed in the beginning like a mere power struggle between two military leaders has deepened regional tensions, caused a severe humanitarian crisis, and attracted foreign military support. We will exchange about scenarios for Sudan as the conflict approaches the 3rd year, and also about the role Uganda could probably play to foster a ceasefire. In the past editions of the Kampala Geopolitics Conference, we did not discuss the numerous security challenges Western Africa is facing. This year, however, we will address this topic. In our panel on jihadism, we will compare the cases of Somalia, Nigeria, and Mali, thus creating a pan-African discussion from the far west to the eastern borders of this continent. These cases show the difficulty of tackling Islamist terrorist groups militarily, economically, and ideologically. Are there similarities in these cases? Where can we learn from? We in particular wanted to bring this discussion to Uganda as a country that is also heavily involved in countering radical Islam, terrorism here in Uganda, but also, as mentioned before, in countries like Somalia. These topics and the other ones we will address during the 2 upcoming days are only a few of the many geopolitical issues that are worth debating here on this stage. But this is why we are doing this conference on geopolitics here in Kampala on an annual basis. And this is also why we invited experts not only from Uganda, but from a number of countries in the region. I'm in particularly proud that partners of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung from Sudan, South Sudan, Egypt, Somalia, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Djibouti, and Somalia, including experts from both Mogadishu and Hargeisa, have been able to make it to the 7th edition of the Kampala Geopolitics Conference in presence. On this occasion, I welcome my fellow colleagues, the head of our Egypt country office, Steffen Krüger, and the director of our sister program, Regional Security Dialogue for Western Africa, based in Abidjan, Dr. Tobias Rüttershoff. Welcome to you all. Let me finally thank our partners from Makerere University, in particular Awel Ouihanganje and his team, as well as the French Embassy and Alliance Française, in particular Cyril Mamon, Amel Abdallahi, Eric Tosé, and the rest of their team for the great cooperation. Finally, many thanks to my colleagues from the two Adenauer Stiftung's programs in town. I wish us rich and open debates on all the topics. Thanks again for making the way to Makerere University today. Thank you very much for your attention. Enjoy the 7th edition of Kampala Geopolitics Conference.
Thank you very much, Niels Warmer, for that clearly, and as you did state, that when there is conflict breaking up in countries, at that particular point in time, it ceases to be just the contestation of political ideas or differences in that country, but it becomes a responsibility of everyone else, because there are spillover effects that do definitely come through. That's why many of the conflicts that have broken out, including the one in Gaza, have now been described as a humanitarian crisis, calling upon even the international community to convene and ensure that human rights are defended and that the right to life is as well protected. And that is the very reason why these conversations are necessary, because it is everyone's responsibility when human rights are being violated for one to be able to protect them. And in that same vein, allow me now invite Eric Touze, who is the director, Alliance Francaise de Kampala, and they've also been, for the last 7 years, been able, I'll welcome a representative from Alliance Francaise to come and speak to us, having supported these conversations for the past 7 years. Very soon we'll be celebrating a decade of these conversations. Allow me to invite Alliance Francaise to come and speak to us.
Well, it's a lot of people, it's impressive. Well, dear representative of the French Embassy, dear Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, Mr. Director of the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, ladies and gentlemen, it's my second time here, actually. I was there last year, and it's still an honor and it's still a pleasure to be here today for these days of reflection, of debates, but also, as we will discover, of cultural discoveries. As representative of the Alliance Francaise, we are the cultural partner of these days. So I'd like just to explain for a short moment our role in this event. What is the Alliance Francaise? The Alliance Francaise is an NGO. It was founded in 1880 and it's present in Kampala since 1954, 55, 56. We don't know, the archives were not preserved, but it's a long time. The historical mission of the Alliance Francaise under the Third Republic were to promote French language, French values, through the teaching of French classical language and culture. At that time, France was supposed to shine around the world as like a beacon, I would say. But, well, time has passed, mentalities have changed, things have changed, the world has changed too, and of course our mission has changed. So we are no longer, of course, seeking to make France shine like a beacon, but now we consider, of course, we tend to consider partnerships of equal on the basis of openness, mutual understanding, mutual respect. That's what we try to do as an NGO. In our missions now, the cultural action has become central. Of course, we promote artists of different practice, all backgrounds, but beyond that, we do promote, or we try to, the values of exchange, diversity, inclusion, understanding. That is also one purpose of teaching language, which is our basic activity. Thus, the mission of the Alliance in this event is to tailor a cultural program that will counterpoint the scholarly discussions that will happen today. I will describe it in a few minutes. So this is where the Alliance Française, the presence of the Alliance Française takes its full meaning, cultural activities. The arts, like any other cultural activity, like any cultural practice, have a lot to tell us about the relationship between individuals, communities, nations, groups of nations, and so on. So the presence of culture and arts in this type of event, I think, is completely relevant. And this is why at the Alliance Française we try to create a place of free, safe expression as a means to promote culture as a vector and also as an access to knowledge. Today, the cultural activities we'll propose aim, of course, to provide a moment of relaxation to all of you that will come at the cocktail tonight. But of course, these cultural activities, these artists that we will introduce to you, have also something to say about the global issues that will be tackled during these 2 days. So now I will just present them to you, and then I will leave the ground to the panelists. First, during panel 1 and panel 2, graffiti artist, muralist, and abstract painter Fatima Hassan. She is from Jamena. Maybe she's in the public, I don't know. No. From Jamena, Chad, but she lives in Kampala. She will, so yes, as I say, she will, how do you say that? She will perform during panel 1 and panel 3, and at the end of these 2 days we will have 2 new works of art. Tonight we'll have a cocktail party, you all know that, and during the cocktail reception we'll have a performance by the Cesar Kajura, who is a saxophonist, and he will play with the poet Hawa. I'm sorry, my writing is really bad. Maybe Nojoba. Very sorry about that. I don't mean no disrespect. With this poet plus a couple of dancers, Rachel Batalo and Frank Mugisha. They will tackle the theme of peace, of tolerance through their show. And then to close the program at the end of the day, we will have the trumpeter Jeremiah Hindu, who will perform for about 45 minutes, and who will be accompanied by 3 musicians, a guitarist, a pianist, and a beatboxer. So that is the action of the Alliance Française in this event. We provide relaxation, we provide opening to arts, but we also provide spots for reflection through culture and
war crimes, gender-based violence. See the dynamics of conversation between whether he was simply a perpetrator or also a victim of war crimes. But the court was actually able to disarm the other part of, yes, he could have been a victim of war crimes, but he had the chance to be able to get out as he went on growing through the ranks. So ladies and gentlemen, give me a bigger round of applause as we welcome our very first panel moderator, Doreen Chaze.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished guests, I stand on the protocol observed. It's an honor for me to moderate the first panel, which will be looking at armed conflicts and peace, with a focus on the interaction between war crimes, gender-based violence, and justice. Before I invite the esteemed panelists, I would like us to take through a few points for us here to note. We know that the African continent has suffered serious conflict over decades. Nobel Peace Prize, which was awarded to Nadia Murad and Dr. Denis Mukwege during the International Forums on Conflict-Related Sexual Violence, observed that fights and conflicts which have contributed to a lot of impunity require discussions at the international agenda. Since 2002 to date, which was the date of entry into effect of the Rome Statute, the main instrument supporting humanitarian law and human rights, the civil war in the DRC has caused millions of direct and indirect victims. The scale of violence inflicted on women displaced by the war is well documented. The effects of conflicts are also observed in the Central African Republic and other countries within the region, as previous speakers have noted. On February the 4th, 2021, the International Criminal Court declared Dominic Ongwen, one of the leaders of the Lord's Resistance Army, guilty of 61 crimes, including 61 crimes against humanity, among them being the newly recognized crime of forced pregnancy. During armed conflicts, sexual violence is used as a weapon and is part and parcel of conflict strategy. It has become endemic and almost systemic in contemporary conflicts. It's a deep and singular trauma with multidimensional and long-term consequences for the victims. Unfortunately, such abuses still go largely unpunished, particularly because they are part of a wider system involving the geopolitical, military, and economic spheres. The panel, which I'll be moderating today, will discuss the leverage provided by the International Criminal Court in such cases. We will examine how, in fragile environment, access to justice remains a real challenge. We will also reflect on the tools that can be applied to help survivors to combat impunity, human rights violations, and mitigate gender-based violence in future conflicts. I'll now take the opportunity to invite the esteemed panelists. In no particular order, I would like to invite Mr. Stephen Ojara, the Communications and Advocacy Officer and Transitional Justice Coordinator at the African Youth Initiative Network in Uganda. Stephen is a Ugandan working with the African Youth Initiative, a trainer in human rights and peace building, and an advisor to Regional Transitional Justice Working Group for Northern Uganda. The second speaker is Mr. Scott Battle. I apologize for the pronunciation. An attorney and program manager for the Trust Fund for Victims at the International Criminal Court. Scott is an attorney. Mr. Scott joined the Trust Fund in 2007, where he oversees victim reparation and assistance programming in cases and situations under the jurisdiction of the ICC. Mr. Battle is based in Uganda at the ICC field office and directs programmatic initiatives in Georgia, Kenya, and Uganda. As a senior manager and attorney, Mr. Battle has a prominent record of accomplishments on a range of issues such as humanitarian relief operations, post-conflict assistance, transitional justice programming, victim reparation and assistance programming, international humanitarian law, humanitarian protection, water, and sanitation. Please join me in welcoming Scott. My next speaker is Ms. Kihika Sarah Kasande, Head of Office of the International Center for Transitional Justice and Head of Initiative for Transitional Justice in African Program. Sarah is an advocate of the Courts of Judicature in Uganda and is currently serves as the Head of Office of the International Center for Transitional Justice in Uganda and the Head of the Initiative for Transitional Justice in Africa Program. She's passionate about social justice and human rights and has over 13 years experience in peace building, gender justice, and transitional justice. Sarah has provided technical assistance on reparations, truth-seeking national and international prosecutions, and gender-inclusive transitional justice processes to victims groups, civil society, state actors in various countries, including Uganda, South Sudan, the Gambia, Tunisia, and Kenya. Sarah has researched, worked, and engaged in conflict-affected communities in Uganda and supported grassroots women's groups and social justice initiatives that champion women's access to justice. She's a member of the advisory committee of the African Transitional Justice Legacy Fund and a co-founder of Chapter 4 Uganda. In addition, Sarah has been a fellow in residence at the Auschwitz Institute for Genocide Prevention. Before joining the ICTJ, Sarah was a senior program officer with Uganda Association of Women Lawyers. She holds several degrees and is also an alumni of Makerere University. My next panelist is Dr. Irene Winnie Anying. Dr. Anying is the country director for Advocates Sans Frontières in Uganda. She holds a doctorate in peace and conflict studies, an LLM in international law of human rights and criminal justice, a postgraduate diploma in legal practice, and a Bachelor of Laws. Dr. Anying has experience on international human rights law and criminal justice systems, transitional justice, land justice, and administration. Dr. Anying has coordinated access to justice programs in Uganda across various spectrums for over a decade. You're welcome, Dr. Anying. The next speaker is Professor Guémain Nouveau, Professor of Law at UPPA France, and an expert on fight against transitional crime at Institut Francophone pour la Justice et la Démocratie. That's my little French. Dr. Guémain is specialized in international and regionalized criminal law. She has been working as an expert in crimes and justice for the European Commission, for the European Union Justice for Law Enforcement Training, and the National School for the Judiciary. She's a member of the Scientific Board of Review in International Criminal Law. She created a master's degree in international criminal law and has been working with the African continent to intend to develop academic cooperation. Professor Guémain has also been working in the area of sexual violence with the NGO Institut Journée, with whom she has worked since 2002. Professor, you're most welcome. I would now like to invite Professor Guemain to take the first spot, who will address the topic on the legal context of GBV in conflict settings, with a focus on innovative approaches for justice to be effective. Professor.
Okay, thank you very much, dear moderator. As an academic, I have to say I'm glad to be in the great Makerere University. Thank you very much for the warm welcome at the university. Thank you very much to the Conrad Foundation for such an impressive international conference. And thank you for the French Embassy for inviting me. I have to say, I'm here, I'm not the only one, but I am just a lawyer. I'm just a lawyer, it implies two things. First, I have, let's say, a narrow angle of the term justice. Let's say justice is here, judiciary, justice is judicial justice. And the second thing is, as a lawyer, I'm working mainly with legal tools. The tools of criminal justice. Here focuses on international criminal justice as we are addressing gender-based sexual and gender-based violences as war crimes. So from this defined angle, I will address the question, maybe as the other members of the panel, the following question: how, to what extent, judicial justice is a means of reconciliation in the situation of sexual and gender-based violences in armed conflict, present and past. Judicial justice has always been seen as a major pillar of peace and security in a sovereign state or on the international scene, for the main reason that justice is the only way to fight impunity. Impunity is the absence of punishment of the authors of crime by the society. The fight against impunity of the authors of atrocities such as sexual violences in armed conflict will contribute to reconciliation in war or conflict zones. But one can say that in the light of decades of experience, this contribution to reconciliation is under conditions. Conditions that could be set up as follow. First condition, we need to overcome the limitations of the legal framework itself. Second condition, we need to enhance the capacity of the judicial tools to be more effective. There is no proper fight against impunity in gender-based violence cases without seeing the victims. Victims must be seen in the criminal proceedings, they must be heard, they must be taken into consideration at the penalty stage. And the third condition is we need to open the scope of criminal justice, again in the light of decades of experience. Open the scope of criminal justice by adding new objectives to judicial justice, with the aim of being better adapted to the context of armed conflict, and also by relying on complementary tools to raise up collective awareness. So I'm going to go through those three conditions as fast as I can, relying on the expertise of my colleagues in this panel for some of the topic. The first condition, a more effective legal recognition of sexual and gender-based violences, crimes in conflict. For centuries, gender-based violences in armed conflict have been invisible. There is no reconciliation possible when crimes are deemed to be invisible, because it means they are tolerated. Sexual violences have been tolerated as collateral damage of armed conflicts in every part of the world. But more than a violation of human rights, as stated in the Geneva Convention, Massive sexual violences perpetrated in armed conflict have become a genuine weapon of war. Weapon of war as a means to terrorize, to assert the civilians. It is nowadays how the annual United Nations report 2022-2024 address the sexual violences as war crime, like a weapon. Many years of impunity has led to sexual violences being a weapon, leading to what Margot Wallström said: there are no rape cultures, only cultures of impunity. Even if we can surely argue that one is not exclusive of the other. However, gender-based violence have been legally criminalized as core, not only human violation, but core international crimes. 1998, the Akayesu case, rapes are characterized as crime of genocide. 2001, sexual violences are characterized as crime against humanity. And then, with the Bambas case trial decision 2016, even if quashed in appeal, sexual violences have been characterized as war crimes, as in the Ndagamba case 2021. That is to say, international legal framework is not weak, it does exist. The difficulty is the enforcement of those legal provisions, because the enforcement is still weak. So, in order to give you an illustration of this paradoxical situation, let's take an example in 2024. Paradoxical situation between the strength of legal framework and the weakness of enforcement. Strength of the legal framework. As already mentioned, and as you know it, the International Criminal Court just rendered the last decision in the Ongwen case in February 2024, the reparation order. On the basis of the historical conviction in 2021, confirmed in appeal in 2022, Ongwen was found guilty of 61 crimes characterized as war crimes and crimes against humanity. Those judicial decisions are seen as nourishing the need to eradicate sexual violence by addressing their widespread and systematic use as a weapon of war. So it has worked. Forced marriage is a crime against humanity. Forced pregnancy has been characterized for the first time as a crime against humanity, and rape and sexual slavery as war crimes. So the legal provisions on gender-based violences in conflict, let's say, maybe have never been stronger. However, at the same time, and it's just one example among many, unfortunately, the war in Ukraine since 2022, it has been established now that rape and sexual violence is used as a military strategy by the Russian army. But just have a look to the the international arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court against Vladimir Putin. If you have a look to the arrest warrant, the crimes are war crimes of unlawful deportation of population, unlawful transfer of population for occupied areas of Ukraine to the Russian Federation in prejudice mainly of Ukrainian children. No mention of sexual violences as war crime. So this is just an illustration of this paradoxical situation. The progress of the legal framework, although not sufficient, make the fight against impunity a more realistic contribution to the reconciliation process. However, in any case, it will be utopian to think that the sole existence of a judicial decision is enough. What matters more for reconciliation process is the way the judges made their opinion, the elements which are taken into consideration. And here, the consideration of victims of massive gender-based violences in conflicts seems to have made the whole difference. So let's turn to the second condition I mentioned. We need to improve the legal tools, the judicial tools in the International Criminal Court. I won't be long on that condition because it is more related on the position of the victims, and I guess it will be addressed by the other panelists. But just judicially speaking, victims of gender-based violences in conflict shall be able to claim two rights, at least: the right to access to justice and the right to reparation. Those two rights are the two pillars of the fight against impunity as organized by the ICC, the International Criminal Court. Procedures and rules have been established for a better recognition of the status of victims of a massive crime. The evaluation of the damages for the victims and the acknowledgement of the deep suffering is also under a better assessment nowadays, and the Ongwen Reparation Order 2024 is a very good illustration of those two improvements. I would like to highlight, to stress on the limits of those rights. The limit to the effectiveness of those rights, of those tools for victims. First, I would like to recall that if there is no conviction by the International Criminal Court of the authors, there is no reparation. But does it mean that, according to the law, victims have not suffered? Another limit, the central issue in a trial before the ICC is the evidence. The evidences in a judicial trial. Which evidence? How to administrate evidence in a conflict context. And it is all the more complicated in the situation of sexual violences perpetrated on several victims. The third limit of the judicial tools is that survivors, victims, are hesitant to report sexual violences and testify before the court because of the trauma, because of the social stigma, and also because there is a lack of confidence in international justice. So how to go towards reconciliation in that case? And that leads me to the third condition I mentioned. Traditional justice, criminal justice, must grow by adding new objectives to judicial justice with the aim of being better adapted to the context of armed conflict, and also by relying on tools to raise up collective awareness. Opening the scope of traditional criminal justice. So given the specificities of massive crimes and the context of war crimes in particular, judicial justice should take at least two complementary directions in order to be more effective. The first path is to deliver justice with the acknowledged objective of rehabilitation of the victims in order to facilitate peace building. If a judicial decision may play a role in sexual and gender-based violences, it must be shaped not only for the punishment of the authors of those crimes, but also as a social sanction on victims' side, here on women and girls' side. By the way the judicial decision is written, by the way the judge will
1
pronounce
minute.
the decision and render justice, and through the different mechanisms of reparation of the damage the victim suffered. By those different means, to stress, I work for an NGO which name is Institut Joannet, l'Institut francophone pour la justice et la démocratie. This NGO supports a project which is named Nengo Project in Central African Republic. The Nengo Project gives victims of sexual and gender-based violence in Bangui and around access to quality care through a coordinated support and comprehensive care pathway, thanks to the establishment of center in hospitals and in the Association des Femmes Juristes de Centrafrique. The holistic center victims give access to medical and psychological care, to social, economic recovery. It consists in providing beneficiaries with food, dignity, school ground, and access to income-generating activities. Why am I mentioning this very important project in the scope of this conference? Because in its most recent decision, the appeal chamber of the Special Criminal Court of Central African Republic has explicitly referred to Nengo Project and the NGO Institut Joannet as a mechanism and a structure to implement the reparation measures decided by the court for the victims of rape. So this is a recognition by a judicial institution of a non-judicial mechanisms in order to go further towards reconciliation. When reparation...
Professor, time up.
Time up, okay. So could you give me just 1 minute? Yeah? I just would like to finish with the need to raise up the collective awareness. To raise collective awareness by training the lawyers, the medical health providers, the health care providers, sorry, and training also the judicial actors. At the moment in Ukraine, the European Union is working a lot on that path, and also raising collective conscience by tools of prevention. I just would like to say that there are some blacklists which does exist now in the area of gender-based violences, such as it has existed in the area of terrorism. So the European Union is fighting against gender-based violences all around the world through these mechanisms of black lists, which are measures of dissuasion for the perpetrators of the atrocities. So despite the lack and the gaps, let's remember the words of Dr. Mukwege. There is no sustainable peace without justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, for that icebreaker. We've heard a lot about the conditions to enhance judicial justice for the victims of GBV and sexual violence, the limitations particularly related to admissibility of the evidence, and the ability and reluctance of the victims to testify due to fear to relieve their traumas. We've heard from Professor the evolving definition of sexual and gender-based violence over the years, and so the need to crystallize that and to protect the victims. Our next speaker is Ms. Sarah Kihika Kasande, who will take us through the role of the International Criminal Court in addressing and mitigating conflict-related human rights abuses, particularly gender-based violence and sexual violence. I remind honorable panelists to stick to 15 minutes each. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be back at Makerere. I spent 4 years here at the Faculty of Law, as it then was, and it was quite a memorable time, and I always feel very happy. Brings back wonderful memories. So I'm very grateful to the French Embassy, Konrad Adenauer, and Makerere University for inviting me to be part of this important conversation. As noted, I work for the International Center for Transitional Justice in contexts where there's been widespread atrocities and human rights violations. Judicial accountability often falls short. It is therefore very important to look at a broader holistic approach to tackling the underlying causes and triggers of conflict, addressing those factors that create these tensions, that give people impetus to be part of armed conflict. So in addition to accountability, criminal accountability, the field I've spent the last 13 years working in focuses on various forms of justice, a broader approach to rebuilding societies, to addressing legacies of past human rights violations, and to managing diversity and differences, and also tackling discriminatory norms and practices that are at the heart of human rights violations, that are at the heart of conflict, that are at the heart of exploitation. I just wanted to first start by laying that. And as always, I have a habit, I go off topic. In this case, I've been asked to speak about the role of the International Criminal Court. I would like to start by caveating that the International Criminal Court does not have primary jurisdiction, right? It only comes in when the states are unable or unwilling to hold perpetrators of international crimes accountable. The primary responsibility of tackling atrocities lies on the state, yes? So the question should be, what role should domestic courts, what role should our states play in tackling impunity for conflict-related sexual violence? So that, I would like us to have that at the back of our mind, knowing that the court will only come in when the domestic court is unable. As we know, the International Criminal Court came into Uganda following a referral by the government of Uganda in 2004 after the military endeavor to end the armed conflict between the Lord's Resistance Army and the government of Uganda failed. But even after that, the court had to consider issues of admissibility. Is Uganda genuinely unable or unwilling to prosecute perpetrators of international crimes, right? After it addressed itself that at the time we did not have a particular legal framework, we did not have the necessary institution, the court was not empowered, then they said, okay, yes, the ICC has jurisdiction. But at all phases, the ICC has to question, is the member state, is the country unable or unwilling to prosecute these crimes? Now, with that said, I must say that the coming into force of the Rome Statute in 2002, following its adoption in 1998, was a fundamental shift in recognizing that time for atrocities to go unpunished had come to an end. You must remember that since Nuremberg till 1998, actually till 1994, there had been very limited effort to hold perpetrators of international crimes accountable. Efforts to establish the International Criminal Court had gone with, of course, at the time there was the Cold War, so there had been challenges. But since from its adoption, it set a standard that impunity was no longer acceptable. And one of the key aspects that it adopted was drawing from the jurisprudence of the International Criminal Tribunal. The previous speaker has mentioned the tribunal for Rwanda, the tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, that set standards on sexual crimes. These were consolidated in the Rome Statute, setting parameters of recognizing sexual crimes as war crimes, sexual crimes as crimes against humanity, and sexual crimes as a form of genocide. And in this case, making sure that when the investigations are being carried out, when perpetrators of war crimes are being prosecuted, these form part of the aspects that are considered. Now, it took the court a couple of years to actually eventually come up with a decision, with some of the decisions that eventually convicted perpetrators of international crimes for sexual crimes. The first was in Ntaganda, and then obviously the most recent and the most notable that has set further standards is the case of Dominic Ongwen. Here in Uganda, Dominic Ongwen, former LRA commander, who was, again, whose trial started at the International Criminal Court, charged initially with 70 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity, and then eventually convicted with 61 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity, including 19 counts of sexual and gender-based crimes. These include forced marriage. One of the, as has been noted, sexual violence was used not only just as a weapon of war, but to completely annihilate a particular community. So the pattern, and not just the LRA, this is a pattern wide over. Women and girls were abducted and taken to serve as not just sexual slaves, but also as conjugal slaves, in that they not only were subjected to rape, but were forced to provide services that ordinarily a person in a conjugal relationship, as what would call husband and wife, would provide: clean, cook, care for the home. So initially, but at the ICC, it is only recently. Initially, it was sexual slavery, limiting it only to confining a person into a home and subjecting them to sexual abuse repeatedly. You're asking someone to cook, you're asking someone to clean, you're asking someone to care for the home. That creates forced marriage. So the court recognized the case of the crime of forced marriage. The court recognized the crime of forced pregnancy, because the pattern in the LRA was to make sure that these women who were abducted gave birth to young children who eventually became part of the troops, who became part of the troops. So we've seen this evolution of international criminal law and trying to understand the broader forms of sexual violence. Unfortunately, this has not translated to the same in our domestic regime. We see increasingly in our domestic regime, we still have this colonial, narrow understanding of sexual violence as mainly rape. But we know it goes broader than that. But also we still have that very narrow understanding of rape, limiting it to only women. But we've seen that sexual violence goes beyond that. It targets both men and women. We've seen partners that we work with, the Refugee Law Project, who are also affiliated to the Makerere University, have documented extensively forms of sexual violence as a means of torture against men, particularly from those documented by displaced populations from the DRC and other contexts. Unfortunately, our domestic legal systems are yet to translate that. But that is where the area of focus should be. Because as we've noted, the International Criminal Court can only prosecute only a handful. If we talk about, for example, the LRA armed conflict, or even any other armed conflict, at most we've seen indictments of either 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals. But we know that the perpetrators prosecute and hold perpetrators accountable. But also critical to this is creating an enabling environment for survivors to come forward and report. We've seen that our criminal justice system is often hostile to survivors, to victims of sexual violence, right? The legal standards, and we've seen, yes, there's been evolution, the removal of the requirement for corroboration, but nevertheless, they still face a big challenge. Recently, one of the domestic first war crimes trial of Thomas Koyolo, and I must say that Uganda is unique. We had 2 war crimes trials happening concurrently. One at the International Criminal Court, that's Dominic Ongwen, and one at the International Crimes Division of the High Court, that is Thomas Koyolo. For those of you who do not know, Uganda has an International Crimes Division, which was set up following the Juba peace negotiations to prosecute perpetrators of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and has now expanded jurisdiction to include transnational crimes. So they recently issued their first decision where the first war crimes accused person, Thomas Coelho, was convicted for 44 counts of war crimes, crimes against humanity, of which 10 were of sexual violence. There were several counts of sexual violence, of course, that were not, he was discharged of because, again, the barriers of obtaining evidence. And at the very onset of this trial, there were no charges of sexual violence. And it really took concerted effort of civil society, victims groups, to push to have sexual crimes added to his indictment. So
1 minute.
Pardon?
1 minute.
Oh, wow. How do we move forward to see that we strengthen accountability for international crimes in domestic courts? One, the legal framework is very important. We must put in place a legal framework, understanding that sexual crimes evolve. There are various patterns and forms of sexual crimes that we are yet to fully understand. And part of this would require listening to victims of these crimes to understand all the dimensions. The other is making sure there are effective support mechanisms. In Uganda, we've been pushing for a witness support program to see that victims who come forward to report these crimes are adequately supported, have got necessary measures to mitigate possible reprisals or retaliation, and also have access to psychosocial support. The other, of course, is the aspect of prevention, tackling discriminatory norms in our communities, making sure we tackle the structural inequality, patriarchy that normalizes sexual violence in periods of peace, that again amplifies it in times of conflict. But again, I would like to reiterate what I said. The future of addressing impunity for sexual crimes lies in domestic legal systems. The ICC comes in as an important actor, but as a secondary actor. That was the role that it was envisaged for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah, for that deliberation. She reaffirms that the countries, the governments have a primary jurisdiction to address impunity, particularly for the war crimes, and that the ICC only comes in at the invite of states, and as the second layer, the second stage of addressing the impunity, and particularly for war crimes. We've heard that